I've heard it said that sometimes you got to go along to get along. Is that Yeshua's way? Hi, this is Barry Phelps with 10-Minute Torah, Day 3 of the Torah portion of Vayishlach. In Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 33, after Yaakov and Esau have hugged on one another and repented to each other and tried to make amends, we get down to verse 17, and Esau says, "Let us depart and go, and let me go before you." But he said to him, "My master knows that the children are weak, the flocks and the herds which are nursing it with me, and if the men should drive them hard, one day all the flocks would die. Please let my master go before his servant, and let me lead on slowly according to the pace of the livestock that go before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Seir." And so in verse 16 it says that Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. But the following verse 17, says that Yaakov set out to Sukkot, and he settled down. He never really goes back and lives with Esau. As you continue reading here, Yaakov comes to the city of Shechem, and he buys a piece of land. And then we get into chapter 34 and the disastrous account that we may deal with more tomorrow about how that his daughter Dinah is either seduced by or forced by Shechem, the prince of the city. And a great undertaking then is made to intermarry. The Hamor, the king of Shechem, he comes and he says, "Please give your daughter to my son for a wife." In chapter 34, verse 9, "And intermarry with us, give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves, and dwell with us, and let the land be before you. Dwell and move about in it, and have possessions in it." Hey, we can all get along. It's all good. A few years ago, not very long ago, but a friend of ours who is a top-notch tour guide, I'll dare say premier tour guide in Israel, Hanok Young. We were riding in, I believe, our vehicle, taking him to the airport, and he made a statement that has stuck with me. And that is along the lines of, and it's not a direct quote, but it's close, that more than all of the rockets of Hezbollah, hundreds of thousands of them that are contained in Lebanon and Syria, that have the ability to reach all parts of Israel, more than a nuclear Iran, more than all of these military threats, he said, Israelis fear conversion to Christianity. Now, he's not being anti-Christian there necessarily. What he's saying is that assimilation or conversions to something other than Judaism as they practice it requires then a change of culture, a change of practice, a change of lifestyle, and a change of identity. Unfortunately, in sharing Messiah with someone from the house of Yehuda, the Jews, what has been done is they have been taught you have to stop being Jewish. You can no longer observe your Torah requirements. You no longer go to synagogue. You no longer need to study the Torah, etc. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's similar to the ill-advised attempts back in the, say, late 1700s, 1800s, where missionaries would go to a Native American tribe, excuse me, and the attempt to introduce them to their Messiah Jesus as he was known at the time, they were not fully converted until they learned to eat with a knife and fork, till they cut their hair and changed their native names to a Christian, quote unquote, name. And so it was not so much winning the person or leading the person to a correct understanding of who their Messiah is, but rather the Christianization of these peoples, changing their language, changing their culture, changing their observances, changing their feast days, changing everything about them, fitting them into a European-minded, previously conceived box of this is how it's supposed to be. I'm not trying to be anti-church or anti-Christian here in saying anything about, if you are call yourself a Christian or you are a member of a church that you are somehow in error. I'm not saying that to you. What I am saying is that when we lead someone to Messiah, it may not mean that they change their identity, ethnicity, their culture, their language, their practices, sinful practices, of course. And the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, is going to lead them in that process. The Word is going to lead them in that process. What I'm speaking about mainly here is assimilation. And that is what Yaakov and family were facing. Esau was saying, okay, we've mended our fence. We're no longer going to try to kill one another. Come on over to my house and live among us and be like us. And Yaakov very tactfully, very diplomatically, very carefully resisted that and said, I can't keep up with you at your pace. We'll see you later. But for right now, we have other things that we need to accomplish. In dealing with Hamor and Shechem from the city of Shechem, there was an even greater call for assimilation. Intermarry with us. Let our daughters marry each other's sons, dwell with us, be like us, become Shechemites. There's no need for you to sit out here and live in tents and dwell with smelly animals all the time. If you want to move into the city, it's all good. Come on in. Yeshua said this in the book of Yochanan, John, if you will, chapter number 15. He says in verse 18, and he's speaking to his followers, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, for that reason the world hates you. If we flip the page here and go into chapter 17, he is praying for us, and he says in verse number 15, I do not pray that you should take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the wicked one. They are not of the world, as I am not of the world. Set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. As you have sent me into the world, I also send them into the world. Now, does he want us in the world or not? The goal is to be set apart unto Messiah. Yet we are living in a world environment where we are called then to reveal the Messiah to those that are around us, diffusing his reality, presence, character, his heart, his word, through us to those who have ears to hear and eyes that are willing to see. Everybody's not going to love us, and there's going to be a great pressure for us to look, act, and think just like they do. We can't do that. We're different. We're set apart. Yet here we are. Be careful. Keep your eyes open and be different, even though you're in the middle of everyone else. And we'll see you again tomorrow. To then, shalom.